All right, let's dive in. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on three of the most demanding and honestly most beautiful maneuvers in aviation. We're talking about the Chandelle, the Lazy 8, and the steep spiral. These aren't just tricks for a check ride, they are fundamental skills that separate good pilots from great ones. So, let's get to it. And this quote right here, it just says it all, doesn't it? These maneuvers weren't born in a classroom. They were forged in the high-stakes world of aerial combat. This is about the pure, raw art of controlling an airplane, where managing your energy and position could literally be the difference between life and death. And that's really the heart of what we're talking about today. It is all about pure stick and rudder skill. We're going to forget about the GPS, forget about the autopilot. This is about feeling the airplane, understanding what it's telling you, and becoming a truly intuitive pilot. Okay, so before we can really start to dance with the airplane, we have to understand the music. And by that I mean the invisible forces of aerodynamics. These are the things that are always at play, the forces that can either help you or hurt you. So let's break them down. You've all felt this, right? Every single pilot knows this feeling. You roll into a bank, you pull back just a little, and suddenly you and the airplane just feel heavier. So what's going on? Well, it's not magic. It's a very real concept called load factor. So here's the deal. When you're in a turn, your wings are basically doing two jobs at once. They're not just creating lift to hold you up against gravity, they're also creating a force to pull you around the turn. That extra work, that's the load factor, and we feel it as G's. And this number really drives the point home. In a simple 60-degree bank, something you do all the time in these maneuvers, the load factor doubles. You're pulling 2 G's. Now, not only do you feel twice as heavy, but here's the kicker. Your stall speed increases by a whopping 41%. That's why understanding this is absolutely crucial. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. One simple fact that the outer wing in a turn is moving faster creates two totally different problems you have to solve. Because it's faster, it creates more lift, which makes the plane want to keep rolling deeper into the turn. We call that the overbanking tendency. But more lift also means more drag, which tries to pull the airplane's nose away from the turn. That's adverse yaw. As the pilot, you're constantly using your ailerons and rudder to fight both of these at the same time. All right, so we've got the physics down. Now it's time for the fun part. Let's put this theory into practice and really break down the big three maneuvers that every commercial pilot has to master. First up is the Chandelle. You can think of it as a maximum performance climbing 180-degree turn. It's graceful, it's beautiful to watch, but don't let that fool you. The Checkride tolerances are incredibly tight. Precision is the name of the game here. You know, the easiest way to think about the Chandelle is like a 2-act play. In the first act, the first 90 degrees, you set your bank at 30 degrees and you hold it there while you smoothly and constantly pitch the nose up. Then, in Act 2, the second 90 degrees, you freeze that pitch attitude and you smoothly roll out of the bank, trading all that airspeed for altitude. And here's a little pro tip for you. A left Chandelle is almost always harder to fly than a right one. Why is that? Well, you're fighting two different forces that are both trying to pull the nose left. You've got P factor from the engine in the climb, and you've got adverse yaw. Both require right rudder to fix, which makes that left turn a real dance on the pedals. Okay, next up, the Lazy 8. And please do not let that name fool you. This maneuver is anything but lazy. It is probably one of the toughest things you'll ever learn to fly, because the airplane is in a constant state of change. And just look at those standards. They are razor sharp. The whole point of the Lazy 8 is smooth, continuous flow. You start a climbing turn, and at the 45-degree point, your pitch is still rising. Then, at the 90-degree point, you hit your maximum bank and your minimum airspeed just as the nose slices through the horizon. From there, it's a descending turn, picking up speed until you roll out perfectly on the 180-degree point, right back at your entry altitude and airspeed. It's the ultimate test of control and coordination. And finally, we have the steep spiral. Think of this as your dress rehearsal for an engine-out emergency. The whole idea is to lose a lot of altitude quickly, but in a very controlled way, all while staying right over a specific point on the ground. This is where precision really meets pressure. This is where your ability to multitask really gets put to the test. I mean, you're constantly adjusting your bank angle to correct for wind drift, you're nailing your best glide speed, you're keeping track of your 3 turns, and you have to remember to clear the engine every once in a while. It's like being the conductor of a complex symphony of control. So you get the what's and the why behind these maneuvers. But how do you actually get good at them? Let's talk about the how. We're going to lay out a clear roadmap to take you from a beginner to a master. Look, You don't just jump into the deep end here. You build up to it. Week 1, you go back to basics. Master slow flight and stalls to really get a feel for the energy state of the airplane. Then you practice just the first half of a chandelle. Once you nail that, you do the full thing. You ease into lazy eights with shallow banks, and then finally, you tackle the steep spiral. This kind of progression builds that critical muscle memory and confidence. And a huge piece of mastery is just plain professionalism, and that includes your radio calls. A crisp, clear, confident call like this one tells air traffic control and everyone else around you exactly what you're doing. It shows that you're in command and you have situational awareness before you even start the maneuver. These are some fantastic tips for Checkride Day, but honestly, they're great for every flight. Keep your cockpit organized. Fly the airplane by looking outside, not by staring at your instruments. And my favorite one here, talk through what you're doing. When you explain your actions out loud, it proves you're thinking ahead. You're being proactive, not reactive. You are truly pilot in command. We've covered a ton of detail, a lot of technique, but it all really boils down to one simple question. What does all this training really mean for you as a pilot? Let's zoom out and look at the big picture. This right here is the ultimate point. The check ride, that's just one day. It's a snapshot in time. But the skills you build practicing these maneuvers, that deep, intuitive feel for the airplane, that mastery of energy management, that precise control, those are the things that stick with you. They make you a safer, more confident, and more capable aviator on every single flight for the rest of your life. So I'll just leave you with this question. It's not really about whether you can fly a perfect chandelle or a perfect lazy eight. It's about what that knowledge, what that skill allows you to become. With these tools in your toolkit, what kind of pilot will you choose to be? Your journey to becoming a master aviator, well, it's really just beginning.